To tell us more about Rex Education and to officially open today's event, let us hear from Rex Education's Chief External Affairs Officer, Ms. Danda Cremelda I. Buhan.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone. With 70 years of service and dedication to education, Rex now evolves from that iconic bookstore that we all know to something bigger and more significant. We are now Rex Education, a brand, a community, an advocacy, a tradition of service dedicated to inspiring every Filipino lifelong learner to advance themselves and uplift others. We have gone from just providing learners with published materials to accompanying them through their lifelong journey, learning in all forms, beyond the walls of institutions, learning for delight, enlightenment, and fulfillment. True to its tradition of service, Rex Education is guided by the Educampion philosophy, which seeks to rally and empower education duty bearers. An Educampion is a champion for education who works with the best interests of the Filipino whole learner. Under this philosophy, Rex Education seeks, among others, to empower duty bearers in the field of education to champion education no matter what the circumstances. It is through and because of this that we are excited to spend the next 2 hours with you as we come together to unveil our newest offering for the Philippine legal community, especially for this year's bar takers, real property ownership and registration, which is a consolidated reference for real property, ownership, and registration. This book is written with the whole learner in mind, making it straightforward, easily understandable, and a reliable research material. I have the honor to present this amazing woman behind this book, author of Tax Rights and Remedies, Real Property Ownership, Registration, Development, Contracts and Taxation, and reviewer on property ownership taxation. She's currently a tax consultant for special projects and the head of tax and legal of Mamalateo Land Incorporated and Jaguar Realty Services Incorporated. Friends, join me in welcoming our partner in championing legal education, Attorney Mary Joy B. Mamalateo-Jusay.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for that very generous introduction. The beautiful Miss Danda Buhain. It is really an honor for me to be part of the Rex family. And I look forward to having more projects with Rex.
Of course. We're looking forward to that as well. Thank you.
Okay. Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me just share my screen. Okay. I hope everybody can see that. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank everybody who came here this afternoon to grace this occasion with your presence. I'd like to thank my family and friends, my students and reviewees, my colleagues in the tax profession, as well as my colleagues in the real estate service profession, especially members of QCNRB and our president, Mr. Bong Piedad, as well as my colleagues from the academy. A special shout out also for the following people who attended today's event. I'd like to thank Mr. Dante Salamat, the president of PARE, Attorney Ray Cartujano, the President of Parks, and our beloved University President, Dr. Q, as well as our Dean for CBMA, Dean Rosas, and of course, my good friend, Dr. Karen Uy, who is the Department Head of BS Real Estate Management. Good afternoon. So today will be about this new book. It is actually the second edition of the book which I co-authored with my father, the late attorney Victorino C. Mamalateo. The predecessor of this book is a 2011 edition. It is entitled Real Property Ownership, Registration, Development Contracts, and Taxation. So it covers a wide range of topics. And this book was originally written by my father, Attorney Vic. And I assure you that this book has good bones. So it took me 10 years to finally have time and make time to update and edit this book. And I've decided to divide the book into different volumes and concentrate on certain topics per volume. So for this first volume, I concentrated on real property ownership and registration. There will be more books to look forward to, the succeeding volumes of the first edition. So the second edition will be about contracts related to real property and taxation of real estate transactions. The third volume will be about development. So it can be horizontal development or subdivision development, or it can also be about vertical development or condominium developments. My father and I has always envisioned this book to be able to reach regular Filipino families, the ordinary readers, because we want to be able to help the readers be able to know and understand what their rights are as property owners, real property owners. And with this book, I'm hoping that I will be able to share and give you a glimpse of what this book is all about. So today's topic will be about a typical Filipino family. It is about a family of 6. So you have your parents with 4 children. And this family is about one member losing one member of the family. In this case, it is the father, who is Greg, who passed away. And he is left with Sheila, the mother, and the 4 children. Now, Greg, the deceased father, has left certain real properties for his heirs. Now, we will be talking about what are the basic rules on real property ownership. And first, I will be talking about the different modes of acquiring real property. Under the Civil Code, there are different types of acquiring ownership over property in general. But for today's purpose, I will be discussing those modes of acquiring ownership that are relevant to real estate properties. No? So we have 2 types of acquiring ownership over real property. We have voluntary modes and involuntary modes of acquiring ownership over real property. Now, under the Civil Code, the voluntary modes of acquiring ownership are 3. We have donation, tradition or delivery, and public grants. We will discuss them one by one. So the first voluntary mode of acquiring ownership is donation. Donation is an act of liberality, of generosity, wherein a person or the donor gratuitously disposes of his ownership over a thing or his right in favor of another or the donee who accepts it. Oops, sorry. Now, in a donation, it is important that the donee accepts the donation of the donor, because it is at that point that the donation becomes final. The acceptance by the donee may be done by the donee personally or through his agent or an authorized representative who is authorized through either a special power of attorney or a general power of attorney. Acceptance by the donee is important in order to have a valid donation, because otherwise that donation will be considered void. Now, when you say a donation is void, what does that mean? A void donation means that it is as if there was no donation at all. It is inexistent. So you don't want that to happen, right? So it's important for you to know what are the legal requirements in order to make a valid donation of real property. And when you are talking about donation of real property, the law specifically requires the donation to be in a certain form. The law requires that the deed of donation be in a public instrument. What is a public instrument? A public instrument simply means that the deed or the instrument is a notarized one. So in order for the donation to be valid, it is important that the deed of donation be in writing and be in a public instrument, and that the donee accepts such donation of real property either in the same deed of donation or in a separate instrument, which is also notarized. So that's the first mode of voluntary mode of acquiring ownership, donation. Now we proceed with the second one, tradition or delivery. This is the type of contract or transaction that we usually deal with respect to real property. It is a contract of sale, a deed of sale covering real property. Now, execution of a deed of absolute sale is not what transfers ownership over real property. What it does is merely gives the buyer the right to assert that the seller execute the deed of sale and have it in a proper form or in a public instrument, or have the deed of sale notarized, because it is this notarization that will effect the constructive delivery of the real property from the seller to the buyer. It is this act of notarization or putting it in a public instrument that the ownership of the property is delivered, is transferred from the seller to the buyer. Because it is the delivery of the thing which operates to divest the seller of the title to the property. So in a contract of sale, what you need to watch out for is that the parties execute a public instrument in order that the ownership over the real property may be properly transferred from the seller to the buyer. The other voluntary mode of acquiring ownership is through a public grant. Now, this public grant is the administrative method of acquiring ownership over alienable and disposable lands of the public domain. It is through a public grant that qualified individuals acquire ownership over these lands for purposes of homestead settlement, sale, lease, or through the administrative legalization of an imperfect title or the issuance of a free patent, which under the law may be an agricultural free patent or a residential free patent. Now, patents are titles which are issued by the DENR. It is the administrative agency that issues this administrative title over real property. And the grantor in a patent is the state, and the grantee is any qualified individual. So you have to look at whether this individual is qualified to own or apply for the issuance of these patents over alienable and disposable lands of the public domain. Now, when the state issues this patent to the patentee, the state or the government recognizes the owner as the owner thereof and entitles him to all the rights as owner of such real property. The only difference is that because it is a patent, it is also subject to certain conditions under the law because it is a mere grant by the state to disqualified individuals of public land. Now, we have covered the voluntary modes of acquiring real property ownership. There are also involuntary modes of acquiring ownership over real property. And we will discuss today 5 of them. The first is on acquisitive prescription, accretion, expropriation, forced sales, and succession. So these may be words that are not familiar with you, but hopefully after today's discussion, you will have an idea about what they are. So let's start with the first mode of involuntary, the involuntary mode of acquiring ownership over real property. The first is through acquisitive prescription. In acquisitive prescription, you have to comply with 2 basic requirements. First, you have to comply with the requirement of possession. And the other is that you comply with the proper object of this acquisitive prescription. Now, in acquisitive prescription, the possession that is needed in order to acquire ownership over real property is one which is uninterrupted, adverse, and in the concept of an owner. So the required possession may be 10 years if it is with good faith and trust title, or it may also be for 30 years without need of title or good faith. So those are the requirements that you need in order to comply with the possession, in order to acquire ownership over real property. Now the next question, now the next question is the object of this acquisitive prescription. What type of lands may be susceptible of acquisitive prescription? It cannot be any type of land. It is restricted to alienable and disposable public lands of the state. So these are alienable and disposable lands of the public domain which are not reserved for any public purpose or any public service. These are the only lands that may be susceptible to acquisitive prescription. When you are talking about land, public lands, which are inalienable, these lands are outside the commerce of men. They may not be subject of a valid contract. So when you are talking about inalienable lands of the public domain, no amount of possession or claim as owner over such land will ever ripen into ownership. So in acquisitive prescription, what you need is to comply with the possession requirement. And that number 2, you acquire ownership only upon alienable and disposable lands of the public domain. Now, the second type of the involuntary mode of acquiring ownership is through accretion. Now, accretion is a process by which soil called alluvium is added or deposited to lands by the riverbanks. So as you can see in the picture, we have a picture of land and we have a river. So the lands around the river, you call the owners of these lands as the riparian owners. Now, these riparian owners may acquire ownership over soil that is gradually added to their existing lands by the riverbank. And you call this process the gradual addition of soil to their existing land as the process of accretion. And the landowners around this river, they are entitled to ownership over this soil that is added to their land because of their ownership rights. And as an owner of a land around that river, they also have the right of accession. The right of accession of an owner is their right to all the fruits or all the accessions to their property, whether they are natural or they are artificial or civil fruits. So these riparian owners, they have a claim to this additional land, additional soil that is gradually added to their land. But these riparian owners, while they may be owners of this added land, do not become automatically titled, no? When this alluvium or this soil is added to their property because of natural causes, they have to do an extra step in order to have that added soil, added land titled under their name. So they have to go to the RTC or the Regional Trial Court and file a land registration case in order to have that soil, that alluvium that has been added to their property titled. Now, the other involuntary mode of acquiring ownership is through expropriation or eminent domain. Now, expropriation or eminent domain is one of the inherent powers of the state. This is the power by which the government takes private property for some public purpose. And this is the type of taking by the government wherein the landowner shall be entitled to just compensation. So this is usually expropriation or eminent domain is usually exercised by the government whenever they have infrastructure projects. Now, the government has exercised broad-scale taking of private property when it implemented its agrarian reform, yung comprehensive agrarian reform program of the government. This is broad-scale taking by the government of private property in order to execute its agrarian reform program. And when the government did this, the landowners who lost their agricultural land became entitled to just compensation. Now, this agrarian reform program undertaken by the government is also one of the topics covered by this book. So this is also something that we can read about. Now, the next involuntary mode of acquiring ownership are forced sales. Now, in forced sales, typically what happens is that there is a public auction of real property in order to satisfy certain liabilities of the landowner. Now, in the collection of delinquent taxes, the state or the government has the power to levy real property of owners, of landowners, in order to satisfy their tax deficiencies. Now, these tax deficiencies may be for national internal revenue taxes, or they may also be for local taxes, usually real property taxes. So when a landowner has deficient taxes, whether national or local, the government has the authority in order to levy whatever real properties they own and have it sold at the public auction. And the proceeds of this public auction will be used in order to satisfy the liabilities of such property owner. So that is for collection of delinquent taxes. Another type of forced sale is foreclosure of real estate mortgage. Now, in a foreclosure of real estate mortgage, the landowner has a principal loan or monetary obligation. Now, this loan or monetary obligation of the owner is secured by a real estate mortgage. So real property is used in order to secure the payment of this principal obligation of loan or monetary obligation. Now, when the owner of real property, who is the mortgagor, is not able to fulfill his obligations of paying his principal loan obligation, then the non-payment of his principal obligation entitles the mortgagee to foreclose on the real estate mortgage. And when the real property is foreclosed, then a public auction or a public sale is done. And the proceeds in that public auction or public sale shall be used in order to satisfy the unpaid obligations of the mortgagor. So these are the types of forced sales. It is essentially also a sale. There is a seller and there is a buyer, except that in forced sales, the sale by the owner, by the landowner, was not voluntary. It was forced. And it was a forced sale because the law allows such, because the owner has unpaid obligations. And these are the rights that are granted the other party in order to satisfy the unpaid obligations of the landowner. Okay, this is the next involuntary mode of acquiring ownership. I guess this is more common to all of us, no? The involuntary mode of acquiring ownership through succession. So through succession, one acquires title to real property either through virtue of a valid will that is executed by the decedent or the deceased, or we call them the testator. When there is a valid will that is left by the testator, you call this type of succession as a testate succession. Now, when the decedent dies without a valid will, then you call that type of succession as intestate succession. Now, in succession, the decedent, who is the owner of real property, transfers his ownership over such real property to his legal heirs. Or if there is a will, then to any of the beneficiaries designated by the testator under his will. Now, let's go back to our typical Filipino family. Now, in our scenario, we have a father who is deceased, the mother, and 4 children. The father who is deceased left 3 types of properties. He left an agricultural land in Batangas. He also left a vacant residential lot in Antipolo. And the last is a housing lot in Tagaytay. Now, the question is, who is or who are the owners of these real properties? Sino ba ang may-ari niyan? diba? We have the father and the mother, and we have the 4 children. So these 3 real properties, the question is, who is the owner, or who are the owners of these real property? Now, ownership of real property, there are also different types. One type of ownership over real property is single ownership, and the other is co-ownership. Now, in a single ownership or sole ownership, obviously, there is only one owner. Now, when there is a co-ownership of real property, there are at least 2 owners over one real property. And we will also discuss later that when you are the owner of real property, it also includes a bundle of rights. Now, in our problem, there are 3 real properties that were left by the decedent father, Greg. Now, who are or who is the owner of those real property? Those real properties are properties that were acquired by the spouses Greg and Sheila during their marriage. Now, how do we determine whether these real property are conjugal partnership of gains or forms part of the absolute community of property? So now we are talking about property relations between spouses. This is also something that you can read about from the book. Now, in order for you to determine whether the real property forms part of the conjugal partnership of gains or the absolute community of property, what you need to look at is the date of marriage of this couple. You have to determine the date of marriage of this couple. Now, when this couple is married on or after the effectivity of the family code or on August 3, 1988, then the real properties acquired by them shall form part of the absolute community of property. Now, when they are married prior to August 3, 1988, the real properties acquired by them during their marriage shall form part of the conjugal partnership of gains. Now, when the decedent father passes away, he is a co-owner of those real properties with the wife Sheila. Co-owners sila. And they co-own those real properties in equal shares. Now, when the father Greg passed away, the 50% or half of those conjugal properties now forms part of the estate of the decedent father Greg. And this 50% of the conjugal properties shall now be distributed to the legal heirs of the decedent Greg if he died without a will. So, intestate succession. Now, let's say he also left a valid last will and testament. The estate of the deceased father Greg may be distributed by him among his designated beneficiaries, who may be his 4 children, his wife, and other appointed beneficiaries. So that is if he left a last will and testament. Now, if he dies without a last will and testament, then the rules on intestacy will be followed. And the legal heirs of Craig, the decedent Craig, will be transmitted by operation of law to his spouse Sheila and his 4 children. And when that happens, a co-ownership among the legitimate heirs of Greg happens. Nagiging co-owners na tuloy sila of the share of the decedent Greg in the conjugal properties. Now, my next question is, so syempre yung mga legitimate heirs natin, if Greg died without a valid will and testament, no? Our legitimate heirs are the spouse and the 4 children. Now, the next question is, are all the heirs of the decedent qualified to own real property in the Philippines? Sino ba who may own real property in the Philippines? Now, let's go back to the family tree. No? Let's go back to this family. Now, in this problem, we have the wife, Sheila, and the 4 children. They are all Filipinos because Greg and Sheila are both Filipinos. However, when Greg, the father, passed away, one of the children, SJ, already is a US citizen. Now, this child, SJ, she became a naturalized American citizen because she married a responsible man who happens to be an American citizen. So she became from a Filipino citizen into a naturalized US citizen. So by the time Greg, the father, passed away, one of the children is no longer a Filipino. Hindi na siya Filipino. So the question is, may a non-Filipino own real property or land here in the Philippines? Sino ba ang pwedeng mag-own ng real property or land here in the Philippines? Now, the general rule is that only Filipino citizens may own land in the Philippines. Filipinos lang ang pwede. When you are referring to land located here in the Philippines. But there are certain exceptions to this rule. And number 1 is, a foreigner may own land or real property located in the Philippines if it is through hereditary succession. No? So, nakikita niyo na ba yung scenario? Diba? We have a child who is a foreigner, a non-Filipino. The general rule is that such foreigner or non-Filipino is prohibited under the Constitution from owning land located in the Philippines, except when it is through hereditary succession. Another exception to the rule is when foreigners own a maximum of 40% interest in a domestic corporation. A domestic corporation which is allowed to own land or real property in the Philippines. So that's the second. First is through hereditary succession. The second is through the ownership of a maximum of 40% interest in a domestic corporation. Now, the third exception is when foreigners or non-Filipinos own a maximum of 40% interest in a condominium project. No? So foreigners can also own condominiums here in the Philippines. No? Another exception is when a former natural-born Filipino purchases land located in the Philippines. They are also allowed basta former natural-born Filipino citizens. Now, who are natural-born Filipino citizens? Now, under the Constitution, one is considered a natural-born Filipino citizen when he or she is born to a Filipino father or mother. No? And he or she became a Filipino without having to do any act. By birth, Filipino siya. So, a former natural-born Filipino citizen is allowed by law to purchase land here in the Philippines kahit na hindi na sila Filipino. But when you are a former natural-born Filipino citizen and you have lost your Filipino citizenship through naturalization in another country, meron na ngayong limit or there are restrictions to the amount or the area of land that you can own in the Philippines. Now, if it is for residential purposes in an urban area, this former natural-born Filipino citizen can own up to 1,000 square meters for residential purposes in an urban area. Now, for residential purposes in a rural area, he or she may also own up to 1 hectare. So that's for residential purposes. Now, you may also own land in the Philippines for business purposes. And you may own up to 5,000 square meters in an urban area for business purposes and up to 3 hectares in a rural area for business purposes. The last is when this former natural-born Filipino citizen opts to reacquire his Filipino citizenship under Republic Act 9225 or the Citizenship Retention and Reacquisition Act of 2003. Now, when you own real property, you own not only the real property itself, not only the thing itself. You own the real property itself, plus all the rights that come with owning real property. And you call these rights as your bundle of rights. Now, this bundle of rights may be your right to enjoy or possess your real property or your right to dispose or encumber your property. And corollary to this right, no, you also have the right to recover your real property. So these are the different types of rights that you have, which is included in your right as the owner of real property. So meron ka ng real property, meron ka pang iba-ibang rights that come with it. And you call that your bundle of rights. So now let us discuss what are these properties that the heirs inherited from the decedent Craig. Diba? We have three properties. We have the agricultural land located in Batangas. We have the residential vacant lot in Antipolo. And we also have the house and lot in Tagaytay. Now, these real properties did not come without any issues. No? And I'm so sure a lot of you have experienced that you inherit property or you own real property which are not exempt from any issues or any problems. Diba? So it's very typical. And the real properties that were left by our decedent Craig is not different. Marami ring problemang iniwan, no? The first is with respect to the agricultural land in Batangas. Now, this agricultural land is only registered and evidenced by a tax declaration. There is no title. Walang title itong agricultural land na iniwan ni Craig. So what the heirs wanted was that to have this property, this agricultural land, registered and titled under the names of the heirs of Craig. So pwede bang gawin yun? Pwede ba nilang gawin yun? The answer is yes, provided that they comply with all the requirements of acquiring alienable and disposable lands of the public domain. Diba? We have discussed earlier, qualified individuals may own real property which is owned by the state. Diba? But it cannot be just any land of the state. Ang sabi ng law, kailangan alienable and disposable lands of the public domain yan. And on top of that, these lands should not be reserved for any public purpose or public service. Now, when the land qualifies as such, no, and the heirs are able to also comply with the possession requirement, then they may be able to apply for the registration of this land under their names. And when that happens, that agricultural land will now be under the torrent system. No? The torrent system, it covers all public and private lands. And under the torrent system, the government issues a certificate of title. Ito yung tinatawag natin na original certificate of title. Now, if the title is issued by the Land Registration Authority under a land registration case, you call that title as a deed. Now, when the title is issued by an administrative agency, such as the DNR, then you call that title as a patent. So, depende, sino ba ang nag-i-issue ng title? DNR ba? Or under a land registration case ba? iba ang tawag. But whether it is a deed or a patent, pareho lang siyang title. And both titles are part of the torrents system. So these are also things that you can read about from the book. So okay, next property tayo. Itong property sa Antipolo that was left by the decedent Craig, may problema din. Meron din. Now, ang problema naman dito is this. Nawawala. The title is missing. No? So, when you want to have the title transferred from the transferor to the transferee, you need to be able to present the original certificate of title before the Register of Deeds. And non-presentation of that title will prevent the cancellation of the original title and the issuance of a new title under the names of the heirs of grain. So ito naman yung problema dito sa property sa Antipolo. Nawawala yung title. No? Nawawala. So what is the remedy? What is the remedy of the heirs of grain? The remedy that is available for the heirs of grain is reconstitution of title. Now, there are also two types of reconstitution of title. We have judicial reconstitution and we also have administrative reconstitution of title. Eh, ano ba ang applicable sa kanila? What would be applicable to them? Now, when the duplicate original copy of the title of the owner is missing, the remedy of the heirs is to file for the judicial reconstitution of title. That is their available remedy. Now, administrative reconstitution of title is available when there has been substantial loss of land titles due to fire, due to flood, and other calamities. And the substantial loss of land titles are the ones which are in the possession of the Register of Deeds. So kapag yung kopya ng titles ng Register of Deeds ang nawala, and the loss is substantial, then administrative reconstitution of titles is an available remedy. So, kailan ba substantial ang loss ng titles? The loss of the titles is substantial when at least 10% of the titles of the total number of titles in the possession of the Register of Deeds is lost, and that in no case that the number of lost or destroyed titles be less than 500 titles. So kapag na-comply mo yung at least 10% of the total land titles in the possession of the RD, and that in no case it is under 500 titles, then substantial ang loss. Now, kapag substantial ang loss, then the owner of real property may file for administrative reconstitution of titles. O, sige, nasa last property na tayo. So, syempre, last property, may problema din. May problema din. Maraming iniwan na properties tong si Gray, pero lahat may problema. But as you can see, no, as we are discussing, sa bawat problema naman, for each problem, there is a solution. No? So it is just a matter of trying to find out what is the proper remedy or the proper solution to your problem. So for this Tagaytay property, ito naman ang issue. House and lot. Nasa ridge side sa Tagaytay. Yung ridge side is the one that is overlooking the Taal volcano. Now this house and lot that was left by Greg in Tagaytay, maganda yung location. It is along a main road in Tagaytay. And when the heirs of Greg inherited this property, they wanted to utilize this property and turn it into a business. No? They wanted to turn this house and lot into an Airbnb business. So ang question naman, can they do that? Can they do that? Can they use this house and lot located in Tagaytay and turn this into business, an Airbnb business? So ito naman ang issue. Sabi natin, when you own any property or if you own real property, your right as an owner is not absolute. There are limitations to your right as an owner of real property. And what are these limitations on your ownership rights? Now, one of the limitations of the right of an owner is constitutional restrictions, constitutional prohibitions. And under the Constitution, the state or the government has inherent powers. It has police power, it has eminent domain, and taxation. Now, these three inherent powers may be exercised by the government or the state and interfere with the ownership rights of the landowner. So, if you are an owner of real property, your rights as an owner may be restricted when the government or the state exercises any of its inherent powers. Very powerful ang government natin. And we have to realize and we have to accept that because the state or the government can exercise this police power, eminent domain, and power of taxation, hindi absolute yung right natin as an owner of real property. Now, another type of restriction, of the rights of an owner of real property doesn't only come from the inherent powers of the state. There may also be restrictions that are imposed by law or imposed by local ordinances or imposed under a contract. So you can see talaga that if you are a real property owner, your rights as an owner is not absolute. There may be other factors which may impose restrictions on your ownership rights. Now, ito sa property nila sa Tagaytay, ano naman ang naging problema? They want to turn this house and lot into an Airbnb business. So, pumunta sila sa local government unit and they inquired about the requirements in order to put up such business. But lo and behold, they discover that there are zoning ordinances in place. Now, this property in Tagaytay was in a residential area. So, the use of their property is restricted to only residential purposes. And aside from that, since it is along the main road, there is a setback requirement. They cannot fully utilize the space of the property. They have to allocate at least 8 meters of setback from the main road up to where the property starts. Diba? So, lumiliit ngayon yung pwede nilang i-utilize na property. And aside from that, because this property is on the ridge side of Tagaytay, meron ding height restrictions. They cannot build up. May limit yung height of the property that they can build. So you can see that even if they have great plans about this property, and even if they are now the new owners of this property, they cannot do everything that they want to do with their property because there are restrictions or limitations in place. But like what I said, for every problem, there is a solution. And I'm hoping that with this book, it will be able to answer most of your related questions on real property ownership and registration. So that's the end of my lecture today. I hope you were able to learn a lot, no, from this discussion. And this is the last slide. Hindi po ito si Richard Gomez and si Lucy Torres. Ito po si John Lloyd at Bea. No, just kidding aside, no. This is my late father, the Atty. Vic C. Mamalateo. Kabukha ko po siya. I always say that. And syempre, yours truly, Atty. Mary Joy or Atty. MJ Mamalateo-Jusay. Thank you, everybody, for coming here today and supporting me in this book launch. Good afternoon.
Thank you for that very rich presentation, Attorney Jusay. We are very honored to receive such expert guidance, especially at a time when the study and practice of law have become more challenging.
Okay.
In behalf of Rex
Diane?
Education, yes, Attorney? Hello? Once again, Attorney,
Diane?
thank you. Attorney?
Yes, okay. Now
Can you
I'm
hear me?
done.
All right. All right. Once again, Attorney, thank you very much for that very rich presentation. We are very honored to receive such expert guidance, especially at a time when the study and practice of law have become more challenging. In behalf of Rex Education, allow me to congratulate you on yet another feather in your cap with the release of this book. We look forward to learning more from you through your books and lectures. Once again, congratulations, Attorney, and here's to more years of working together as stewards of legal education.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, let us hear more about how the works of Attorney Jusay plays a significant role in shaping our young lawyers and aspiring lawyers today. He has been in the global banking since 1993 and Attorney Jusay's partner in life. Let us all give a warm welcome to Mr. Joseph Anthony Jusay.
Hello? Oh, sorry, am I too close? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry if I'm a little bit out of focus. I think my wife has the better office, of course. But thank you, Diane, for the kind introduction, and thank you for inviting me to speak today. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Like Diane said, the husband of Attorney Mary Joy. I'm Joseph Jusay, or here in the Philippines, it's Husay. Sorry, I'm not normally the public speaker. I usually leave that for Joy. So of course, when she asked me to do this, I started to panic a little bit and start to have a last minute trying to think of what I'm going to actually write about or discuss. So hold on one second. Sorry, I think my wife was trying to give me some advice on the mic. Can you guys hear me okay? Diane, can you hear me okay? Can everyone hear okay? Because
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
okay. So I'm delighted to have attended this lecture today, and especially pleased to have the opportunity to share some thoughts and observation about my lecturer, my beautiful wife. Sorry, my views may be biased, but some of you who know Joy personally could agree with my thoughts. She's very professional. She's a good listener, and she never hesitates to help. Even if she has many deadlines, she always finds time to help someone in need. I should know. She seems to be always working, attending late night calls, researching topics for her class, updating her book, or just finalizing documents for last minute deadlines. This is all for her who she could still budget her time and still have a family life. Some of her accomplishments, I think it's stated in the book, but I always like to read them off. You know, she passed the Philippine bar in the first try. She passed the New York bar, you know, while taking care of our daughter, our 2-year-old daughter, and carrying our son at the time when she was pregnant. She passed. She also passed the real estate broker exam and appraiser exam, all while taking care of the 2 kids while I was still working in Hong Kong. She's a lecturer, she's a teacher, she's an author, and of course, she's a mother. This book, Real Property, Ownership and Registration, benefits everyone. You don't have to be a lawyer or a real estate professional. It's useful to all property owners or potential owners or buyers. This book helped me understand registration, understand the rights to own the land, importance of having the title, and the scary part of when you lost the title and you have to do a reconstitution of the title, which you obviously would know will take a long time. These are the things that are beneficial for this book, and I hear it comes up all the time, especially in our day and age where our parents or our parents' parents are still going through settlement of their properties, which are still in their, 2 or 3 generations ago named still. And so getting them transferred, it always comes up. It's very helpful. So I think this book is not just for the lawyers and the real estate professionals. It benefits everyone. I know for me, myself, personally, I have the luxury of having the author right next to me, so I could ask her for instant info. But of course, we have the book as well, which is will help everyone. So I just wanted to be, I just wanted to say something short and sweet about, about Joy and about this book and how it would benefit for everyone. So I hope next time I have to speak or join the lecture, it will be actually a physical one, so we could all be together, maybe have some cocktails after, and chit chat some more personally, and go over some other funny stories, I guess. But again, thank you for listening to my biasness, and thank you for joining today. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you very much, Sir Joseph. We are very honored to have you grace this event, sir.
Thank you.
All right. All right, and to tell us more about how the book can be of great help, especially in real estate practice, we will now listen to what another expert has to say about it. He is Attorney Jusay's friend and a colleague in the real estate practice, being a licensed real estate broker and appraiser himself since 2015. Let us all give a warm welcome to Attorney Lino Ernie M. Guevara.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, Joy, for that very illuminating lecture. While listening to you, it brought back memories during my, I think, second year property subject at UP Law. No? Although I've heard alluvium, accession, accretion, and still I cannot make sense out of it, no? And all those Latin terms. And I think hearing from Joe, hi Joe, and saying that he read your book, no, I think we could have a paralegal already to be recruited by us, no, in a real estate practice. Okay, so let me start by giving a shout out, no, and congratulate you for this very wonderful book, no. As you've said, it is an updated version, and I think it is very wise of you to split the book because I haven't realized it in my during my law school days, but I think property law, no, is very, very complex, and I think the original book by you and Attorney Vic, no, could really be split into two to give more discussions, no, on particular subjects that will highlight the very detailed and important points, not only about the theories, but also in the practice as well. And I think law students, reviewers, even real estate students, real estate management students and reviewers, and of course, real estate practitioners like us, could be very well, could benefit, no, from this book of yours. And I think that's the reason why most of our colleagues at our beloved QCNRB, no, which I think, whom I think most of them are here and meet this afternoon, no, are very excited because this will be very handy in our practice. There are, I think, not that much book, no, in the market which will give you all the comprehensive topics about real estate, no? From the theories of ownership, acquisition, and I think you've discussed them very well during your lecture to give us a snippet of what to expect in your book. And I think learning this, no, as a student, as a practitioner, as a practicing real estate attorney, or real estate broker or appraiser, this, in fact, will be very, very helpful. And I think it is very relevant at this time, no? COVID-19 notwithstanding, because real estate profession has been elevated to a real profession, no? Being given such licensure exam under the RESA law. Now we can say that we are at par with lawyers, doctors, architects, and engineers now. But I think with this responsibility, with this privilege, no, comes the responsibility of us being more than seller of real properties. No, we should equip ourselves. We should distinguish ourselves as very knowledgeable about the real estate transaction. And I think this is where your book, no, books like this, reference materials like this, would come in very, very handy as a tool for us to educate us, to transform us to be better practitioners now, be it in real estate as tax attorney or real estate broker or appraiser. If we care to read the book, no, this will guide us and help us navigate all the complexities about real estate transaction. When I was still a student, I didn't really appreciate much about real estate, no. But when I went out of law school, no, from the UP College of Law, and then practiced as a tax attorney, and then later on became a broker, I appreciated it more. And I think your book, although I must admit I haven't read the entire book, no, I just read snippets of it, is that it will give you both the theory and the realities of the practice, which I think is an edge for you as an author, because you are not only a practicing lawyer, attorney, you are also a broker and appraiser. And I think all your knowledge and experiences and expertise are put into this book, no? And for us to be able to benefit from such good source materials. And for that, no, we are really excited, and I think that's why most, I think, of our colleagues from QC and RB are raring to buy your book, no, although at a discount, I think. Anyway, let me end on a personal note, no. I've talked about the book briefly, but now I'd like to talk about Attorney Joy, or MJ to friends, no. I think I have known her since like it's more than 2 decades already. I think I first met her when our class, no, our UP Law class in taxation, went to their house and do a Christmas caroling, no, because Sir Attorney Victorino Mamalateo, or VCM as we fondly call him, is also my professor at the UP College of Law. And then we went to his house because he's so generous. I think he was the one who had given the most amount for our caroling, which we spent on our Christmas party. So that's the first time that I saw Joy, no? And later on, I think as a student, I'm not sure if she was already a law student by then or still in LaSalle. I met her because I was at the one of the auditing firms, tax division, where Sir Vic, no, her dad, was also my boss and mentor, no. So she joined, I think, some of our outings and Christmas parties. So I got to know her. And then I went to New York for a while to our office there, and I came back, no. And when I came back, I think that was the time that Joy already took the bar. She was an underbar, and she joined the firm, no, and she eventually passed, no. So I guess I've seen her blossomed from a law student, a tax lawyer, and then eventually, when we put up our own tax practice, we became co-partners in that firm, and it was really a joy, now working with her, and our friends could attest to that. We have been working together in that tax practice, and now we're branching out to real estate practice, and now we're also branching out further to real estate practice because we're both brokers and appraisers, and it is such a joy. And I think her friends, no, her colleagues, even her, of course, her family, Tita Sally, her mom, and 3 J's in her life, the precious 3 J's in her life. Joe, you've heard him before, and her 2 beautiful kids, Jessica and Jaden. And then, of course, her brothers, 3 brothers. Joy's the only girl in the family. I'm so sure they are very, very proud of your achievement today. But I guess the one beaming with the widest, sweetest smile up above is Sir Vic. Not only because you carried on the torch, to continue his legacy as a tax practitioner, as a writer, as a teacher, professor, all rolled into one. And I think he will be very proud of you. And I think you are a testament to his legacy, not only because of your competence, but more so of your generosity and your selflessness in sharing your gifts. And your book today is a testament to that we could all benefit from. So for that, we would like to thank you, and cheers to you and to Rex for partnering with you in this noble endeavor. And for your next book, I hope it will not be much of a wait. And well, lastly, having given all the beautiful words and accolades, I think I'll be entitled to a free copy of your book with your signature and dedications and all that. But seriously, from all our friends, I think you have seen that in our Viber group. They are so very excited. No, all high praises for your achievement, and congratulations to you. Good luck.
Thank you for all these kind words, Attorney Guevara and Mr. Husay. Hearing your praises of the book gives us utmost pride for having been chosen and entrusted with the publication of this masterpiece. In the same vein, allow us to express our gratitude to you as well for being stewards of legal education and of the law practice yourselves. Now, Attorney Husay, do you have anything else more to say, ma'am, before we proceed to our online raffle?
I would want to say thank you, of course, to my two partners in life. My partner in crime, no, my partner in life, my husband, my beloved husband, Joseph Husay, and of course, my friend, my colleague, and business partner, Attorney Ernie Guevara. I'd like to thank both of you for the very generous and kind words that you have shared this afternoon. And I really want to thank everyone who came here this afternoon. And you will not be disappointed when you get a copy of this book, because I am sure that it will live up to its promise, no, of being able to guide you and help you in your concerns over real property ownership and registration. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you once again, Attorney, and congratulations. This time, as promised, we will now be giving away a copy of this new book. Who will be the lucky one to win the book Real Property Ownership and Registration by our beloved Rex author, Attorney Mary Joy B. Mamalateo-Jusay? Again, reminder, we will be announcing the name of the lucky person for this raffle. If your name is called, please comment down present so we know you're here with us. We will then verify if it's you who won. However, if after 30 seconds we did not see any comment, we will be drawing another winner from our list of registrants. Also, to those who already won the raffle last book launch, you're not allowed to join the raffle anymore so that we can give chance to the other registrants who's here with us today. All right, so good luck, and our team will now spin the wheel. All right, so congratulations to our winner, Miss Florence Credo Manulat. Miss Manulat, if you're here with us today, you just won a copy of the book, Real Property Ownership and Registration by Attorney Husay. So please comment down below. Please comment present if you're here with us today. All right, time's up. And unfortunately, Miss Manulat was unable to comment present on our comments section. All right, so now our Rex representative will spin the wheel again. And for the other registrants, you will have a chance to win. You still have a chance to win the copy of Attorney Husay's new book. All right, please spin the wheel. All right, we have another winner. Congratulations to Royce de la Cruz. So, Sir Royce, if you're here with us today, please comment present on the comment section. We will wait for 30 seconds. All right, time's up again. Mr. Royce was unable to comment down present on the comment section. So again, a Rex representative will spin the wheel. All right, we have a winner. Congratulations to Ms. Anna Marie Baligod Codesio. Ms. Anna, if you're here with us today, please comment present on the comment section. You just won a copy of Attorney Jusay's new book, Real Property Ownership and Registration. Okay, time's up. We will now be spinning again our wheel. So the other registrants, you still have a chance to win Attorney Jusay's book. Once again, if your name was announced, please do comment present on the comment section. All right, we have a winner. Congratulations to Mr. Aldrin Cruz. Mr. Aldrin, if you're here with us today, please comment present on the comment section below. All right. Congratulations, Mr. Aldrin Cruz. You just won a copy of the book, Real Property Ownership and Registration by Attorney Jusay. All right, a Rex representative will be sending you an email for the details on how to claim your prize. Once again, congratulations, Mr. Aldrin Cruz. All right, now we will listen to Rex Education's General Manager for CLV Law, Mr. Reginald Soriano, for his word of thanks.
Hello, good evening, everybody. First and foremost, I'd like to greet Mr. Joseph Jusay, who's also here, Attorney Ernie Guevara, distinguished guests, panelists, faculty members, and law students alike. We are here to first and foremost congratulate Attorney Mary Joy, Husay, who is, again, we are so proud to be part of the Rex family. We are thankful that you have chosen us to first and foremost be part of, again, of the Rex family, but more importantly, carrying on the great work that has been started by your father. And for that, we do appreciate po the contribution that you continue to do for our lifelong learners. As you know, Rex has really focused the lifelong learner to be the center, to be the main important aspect of why we do things. We do things because we want to improve the lives, enabling the dreams of all our law learners, all our law practitioners to be the best versions of themselves. I just want to highlight the fact that it also relates to everybody's life, no? And why is that important? Because from my own personal experience in my days when I was practicing social activism, I had the fortunate chance of being able to talk to a few of our farmers po, yung mga magsasaka natin, no? And one of the things, the impression that I got during that time was that they identified with the property that they were tilling, the land na kanila pong tinataniman at inaani. This is for them, not because it's a source of something that they want to say na ito property ko, but rather it's a source of dignity. It's a source of pride. It's a source of responsibility. They are seeing themselves as being able to contribute to society because in this parcel, this small portion of land that they've chosen to be productive, they know that they're able to help their countrymen. They're able to provide for their family. It's a source of responsibility and dignity. So we can imagine po, no, that if we look at every Filipino here in the Philippines, in the world actually, for that matter, every citizen po, ownership of property is not just a source of pride, source of wealth, but rather it is a source of dignity. It's a source of our identity. Yung personal space po natin, that is of course what is arm's length daw. But in reality, we also equate it to our property. And that's why we always need to have the right understanding, the right laws, justice in our laws, and the way we should understand and implement it. Because it's very important to provide that dignity, to provide that ability for each and every person, not just to own property, but to be given the rights and to understand the rights and how to make use of that property. So again, from the bottom of our hearts, from the whole Rex management, Attorney Husay, we are so thankful po for being able to provide such a very important book that will help our law learners, our law practitioners, be the agents of justice to provide that learning, to provide that guidance to every and all Filipinos who need to know and how to be, more importantly, the right person to provide that dignity in ownership. So with that, in behalf of the Rex management, maraming salamat po. And to everybody, thank you for attending this wonderful webinar, and we always pray that you stay safe. God bless po. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Reggie. On that note, we have come to the end of this afternoon's program. Indeed, it was a very productive learning afternoon with our legal luminary, Attorney Mary Joy Husay, and our distinguished guests from the field of law. In behalf of Rex Education, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude for having been chosen as your partner in legal education. We look forward to more years of our fruitful partnership as we continue to work together to enable law students and lawyers achieve their dreams of becoming lawyers and excelling as one. To everyone who joined us this afternoon, thank you for learning with us and for choosing Rex to be your partner in learning. See you all in our next book launch and lecture. Thank you and keep soaring, Educampions.